Today we're just going to get a little idea of the meaning of multiplication and division, a recap of something you've done. So if we have a look at this little picture here, these red dots arranged like this, let's pretend like these are, like it's a muffin tray. I've been baking muffins in the oven in. And what I can see is how have I arranged my muffins? Well, I've got 3 in this row, and then another 3 in this row, and another 3 in this row, and another 3 in that row. So if I want to know how many I've got in total, I can just add up all those 3s, right? But multiplication is going to give me another way of writing that. And in other words, what we've got here is I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 lots. 4 rows with 3 in each row, which we write like that, 4 multiplied by 3. 4 lots of 3, 4 rows with 3 in each row. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is just the same as 4 times 3. Now another thing that is equivalent is like, now what I want you to do is just take that that picture there and turn it on its side. And what you'll see, if you've pictured it properly in your head and turned it on its side, is you get this, right? And what is this? Well, in this case, we've got 4 in this row, 4 in this row, and 4 in this row. And how many rows have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3 rows. So we've got 3 rows of 4, and that's exactly the same thing, right? 4 rows of 3 or 3 rows of 4 are going to get you to the same amount, and in all these cases the answer obviously is 12. Now if we think about division, the thing with division is it's just the inverse of multiplication. So if you know a multiplication, you know a division. Let me show you what I mean. The related division fact here is 12 divided by 3. What are we asking when we say 12 divided by 3? We're asking how many 3s, or how many groups of 3, are there in 12. So how many groups of 3 can we make out of this 12? Well, let's have a look. We can make 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, because there are 4 groups of 3 in 12. And you can see how these two things relate to each other, right? The multiplication says we've got 4 groups of 3, and that gives us 12. And here we're asking, if we take 12 and we divide it into groups of 3, how many groups of 3 do we get? Well, the answer is 4. So can you see the division and the multiplication is telling you the same thing? So another division we can get out of this one is we can say 12 divided by 4 is equal to what? And this asks us how many 4s are there in 12? Well, we can see it. There's one group of 4, there's another group of 4, and there's another group of 4. So the answer is there are 3 groups of 4 in 12. And can you see? This says 3 groups of 4 make 12. And this thing says if you take 12 and you divide it into groups of 4, you'll get 3 of them. So can you see division and multiplication tell us the same thing? Okay, let's just check you've got this. I'm going to tell you a fact, which is 13 times 19 is 247. And I want to give you you to give me 3 more facts that you can get immediately out of this. 1 multiplication fact and 2 division facts that follow immediately from the fact that 13 times 19 is 247. Pause the video now and write them down. Okay, so you hopefully remembered. It doesn't matter which order you do the multiplication in. 13 times 19, 19 times 13 is the same. And then your division facts would have been that if you take 247 and you divide it by 19, you get 13. Because 247, if you're going to ask how many groups of 19, how many packets of 19 can you make out of 247? Well, the answer is obviously 13, because up here you got that 13 lots of 19 got you to 247. And similarly, you'll get 247 divide by 13 gives you 19. The other thing I want to quickly just show you and remind you about is that sometimes we write division as a fraction. So when we write 247 over 13, we mean 247 divided by 13, and so the answer is 19. So obviously we could also write 247 over 19, means 247 divided by 19, and we get 13 as the answer. Now I just want to show you one other way of thinking about division which helps us in certain cases. So the first way we thought about division, which is a lovely way, which is if we've got 12 divided by 3, we're asking how many 3's are there in 12, and we did this. We sort of looked and saw 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 groups of 3 in 12, and we got the answer. But there is another way to think about division, which is going to help us in other cases. And in this way of thinking about division is to say we have got these 12 muffins, right? And it needs to be shared equally, fairly, whatever you want to call it, between 3 people. And the question is, how many does each person get? So what we've got is we've got these 3 little people, and they want to share these 12 muffins absolutely fairly, and you can hopefully see quite easily if this person takes that whole column, that person takes that lot, and that person takes that lot, they'll be absolutely fair, and each of them will end up with 4 muffins. Why do I like this other way of thinking about it? Well, it helps me when I get to thinking about how division works, right? When are you going to get a bigger answer from division? Well, hopefully you can see quite easily. If I divide now by 6, right? What's going to happen here? I am dividing this. I'm sharing those muffins with a whole lot more people. Where am I going to be happier? Where am I going to get more muffins to eat? Obviously, if there are only 3 of us who are going to share the muffins, if there's 6 of us who are going to share the muffins, we're going to get far fewer each. And in fact, 12 divided by 6 is just 2, right? Now that's easy to work out, but you know, in another world, if I asked you what was 200 and which is bigger, 240 divided by 7 or 240 divided by 23, those aren't easy calculations to do, but it's an easy answer. Which one's going to give you the bigger answer? Well, this one, you're only going to share your muffins with 7 people. You've got 240 muffins, but only 7 of you sharing. This time, you've still got those 240 muffins, but there are 23 of you that have to share them. Obviously, you're going to get far fewer. You're going to get a much smaller answer here. And here, you're going to get a bigger amount of muffins. So thinking about the sharing thing lets you see that when you divide by a smaller number, you actually end up with a bigger answer. We're going to do one little example, and it's an exchange rate example. So say you're told that $1 is 15 rands. And you're going to work out how many rands you're going to give me if I give you $2. So the idea here is very simple, and the reason why it ends up being a multiplication and division thing is as follows. Basically, the idea is that for every dollar that you give me, I must give you 15 rands, right? So these are all my little 1 rand coins. So if you give me $1, I've got to give you those 15. If you give me another $1, I've got to give you another 15. If you give me another $1 on top of that, I've got to give you another 15, and so on and so on. And so hopefully you can quite easily see that what you're doing is for each dollar that you must have 15 times as many rands. So what you're going to take is you want to know how many dollars have been put on the table, and then you need to multiply it by 15 to get the number of rands. So then it becomes very easy. You can tell me if I give you, say, $2, right? How many rands? Well, you're just going to go and put it in here. The number of dollars is 2. You multiply it by 15 and you get 30 rand. So there's your answer. What about if I started off by giving 45 rand and I needed to know how many dollars to get? Well, let's just go and put it in here, right? We don't know how many dollars, but we know when we multiply it by 15, we get 45 rands. And we know that multiplication and division are linked, and so what we can do is we can say that this we're just going to get by doing the division, and 45 divided by 15 is 3.